All right, everybody, welcome back. I think we're on episode 90. Episode 90 of Culper's Canteen. I mean, it only took us 2 years to put out to put out 90 episodes. So we just put one out. We decided to go ahead and do another one this weekend real quick. I'm taking off, headed to the beach for a week. Um I'll be down there hanging out. Hopefully nobody tries to roll me back in the water thinking that some poor pilot whale done washed up in on the beach in Georgia. But I've been working, man. I've been lifting. I've been lifting pretty hard. I'm trying to get my arms a little bigger to make my stomach look a little smaller. I know some people we used to work with who did that trick, man. It works. Nah, I've been trying to eat right for the most part, minus my Ritz crackers with peanut butter that I had as I was sitting down to record this, and Luke fat shamed me as he often does. I don't know in today's woke world if I don't know if that flies. I don't know, man. YouTube might put this. Good thing it wasn't recorded because YouTube might smack us down for that, man. You can't be going around fat shaming people, Luke. But as always, big thanks to Carlton Zeus for the intro music. If you for you YouTube viewers, if you ever heard it, you need to get over to www.carltonzeus.com or Apple Music and check him out. It's got a new album out, got lots of tunes, and he's pretty badass. So we decided we're going to do a just kind of a mixed bag today on this, but we kind of got to talking a little bit before, and we were kind of in talking about the upcoming elections and who's electable, who's not. Roger's really hoping that that Mitt Romney is the Republican nominee for president, so he can get out and stump for him and get those. I don't know who Luke's pushing for. I think it's Pence. I'm not sure. But before we get started, before we get into that, Luke, I have a question for you. What is in the water in Texas? I just saw Winters, Texas. This lady gave birth to twin girls days apart. It was days apart. Like it wasn't hours. It was very bizarre. She cranked one out, and then it took like 4 days before the second one came. I don't know if you saw that. I don't know if you really care. I was, man, what's going on down in Texas? You got that going on in Texas. You got all the events over the last 30 days going on in Texas. You got drag shows, with kids in Dallas. Like, I don't know what's happening in Texas.
Roger wants to say something.
Holy shit! So I'm in Portland, right? There is literally a protest that is starting right now. I need to hold on. I'm gonna see if I can show you.
Hey, what? Okay.
So, I don't know if I can see it with the camera.
Roger, he's you can kind of see it. Are there some people walking on a path down here or something? They're gonna throw rocks at you, dude.
Is that Antifa?
Okay, explain what you're looking at.
So, no, I was saying I don't have to worry up here. I'm on the 24th, so we've seen the size of David Hogg's arms. He ain't getting the walk on his
Dude, go ahead.
It's the it's like the National Protest Day for the guns or whatever. So I'm here in Portland, and no kidding, like they just started this freaking protest down there. I can hear them with megaphones and couple of thousand people. So, I'm not brave enough to take my iPhone down there and try to do a Culper's Canteen Cup episode from the street.
Dude.
Oh. So are you looking for a job on the Uvalde police force or something? Get down there.
Yeah, dude, you got it. Oh, okay. Well, speaking of throwing rocks, so do you guys remember? I think Josh and I have talked about this before I answer the questions about Texas. Do you remember it was a horrible, horrible thing where those Blackwater guys got burned out near the bridge, and there was a Humvee right there that was also burned out. And there was an Iraqi kid, probably 10 years old, who hurled this image sticks in my mind like nothing. He was probably, 60 feet away from the Humvee. Those little up armored windows. They're not very big, man.
Yeah, they're not big at all.
He hurled 3 rocks as hard as he could, all 3 of them hit in that little strike zone for that Humvee. I'll never forget. And he was throwing some heaters, dude. And I was like, man, the Major League Baseball needs to take a look at these Iraqis, man. Too bad they don't play with rocks. They play with baseballs, not rocks. But yeah, dude, I don't know what's up with that lady that gave birth, 4 days apart. I don't know. I mean, I know it's possible, unlikely, for a woman to have fraternal twins. She'll, what I'm saying. One will be impregnated, and then before, if it's the right time in the cycle, I don't even know why I'm talking about this. I'll tell you why I'm talking about it. Is because I'm reading an article right now from CNN Business. A tampon shortage is the latest nightmare for women. So we've got a baby formula shortage, and due to supply chain problems and inflation, we're going to have a tampon shortage now. So
I just want to say real quick that's really bigoted of you to say that's a women's problem. It's a men's problem too, Luke. This is 2022, and I'm going to need you to get your shit together.
Okay, my bad, folks. Men need tampons too sometimes. That's a good point, Josh. So I did the woman giving birth, like 4 days or something like that apart. I saw a snippet of that, but what really caught my eye was the chupacabra sighting up in Amarillo outside the zoo. So that really do you know the rest of the story on that?
No, I don't. I just saw what you had sent me real quick.
Well, that kind of blew up because it was kind of a strange picture. It was like the old Bigfoot footage or something.
Yeah, it was bizarre.
So
did they find out what it was?
Yeah. I just read an article just before I got on that, and it's blowing up all over the place. And other outlets are like, "What is this?" City officials want answers. And Amarillo Parks and Wildlife, who manages the zoo, did it as a publicity stunt. Just
no!
I love it.
That's hilarious.
That thing blew up for like 3 days, man. That's pretty. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I was, Josh was like, obviously we know Roger's all in on Romney. Josh thinks I'm all in on Pence, but I've been watching some Fox News lately, and I've been seeing old Huckabee playing guitar with what's his name? Talking about relaxium sleep. And so I think I want to wheel old Huckabee up there. I mean, if Huckabee's old as hell, but man, so's Joe Biden. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I don't know about Huckabee. Maybe we'll get into my real thoughts on that. But so Roger, is it going to be Romney and Cheney, or is it going to be Pence and Cheney, or something? Because Cheney, look, before I was sorry, I'm gonna do what you do to me. So Cheney, everyone's like, everybody on the right's like, Liz Cheney, she's such a yeah. She's going to lose. She's going to lose her Senate seat. I don't think she cares. I think she's got her eye on something else. And I'd like to, I have some ideas on what she might have her eyes on. But what do you think?
So I don't know that she has the support of the right, and I've heard you guys throw out Pence a couple times. And I've done some gurgling here and there. I'm not sure either one of them. I mean, Pence obviously more because he is like your traditional Republican, right? And I get it, they're like a mild mannered and this and that. But one, I don't think Pence can win a primary. Cheney, I don't think will have any of the backing of the right. And so, I mean, right now, I think I'm sticking to my guns with unless he f's this up pretty bad. I mean, I think DeSantis looks like he's going to be the front runner in this thing. I haven't really heard the GOP come out and poop on him too much. Of course, there's still a long ways to go. But he's, like we talked about last episode, his demeanor is a lot different than Trump's. So, and he doesn't go off the handle, on Twitter and give a lot of material to, the late night shows and other mainstream media or what have you. So I think when you look at front runners, I mean, DeSantis, and I'll get Josh's thoughts on this. He's more familiar with that area, but I mean, I think he's got to step on, a big pile of dog poop not to be the front runner. And I think that with his demeanor, the way he is, because he is the answer right now for, Trump's got a lot of support out there. I don't care what people think or whatever. It depends on what part of the country you're in. More places, obviously, more support than others. But when you look at the combination of kind of like the Glenn Youngkin thing, right? Trump's policies with, also being mild mannered, And I wouldn't say that DeSantis is mild mannered. I mean, he's got a little fire under him as well, but it's very controlled, right? So I don't know that unless he steps in a big pile of dog poop and things just go south in Florida and just completely goes off the rails for the next year or so. I don't know that anybody knocks him off that pedestal. I think he's a front runner. I think that the GOP has to endorse him. He hasn't really done anything to piss off the GOP. It looks like he's in pretty good standing with Trump, I think, from what we talked about. But I don't know, Josh. Any thoughts on if DeSantis is if there's I don't know, can anybody knock DeSantis from being the primary winner?
Yeah, the establishment. So, you talk about how Pence wouldn't win a primary. Well, Pence doesn't have to win the primary. It's going to come down to the convention, right? I mean, you look at what they did to Bernie. Look at what the DNC did to Bernie Sanders. I think Bernie Sanders was going to win, and be the nominee. I think he was going to beat Hillary, and the DNC, stepped in and did everything in their power to prevent that from happening. I would not put it past the RNC to do the exact same thing to get their preferred candidate in. Here's the problem with DeSantis. Is DeSantis the good thing? Let me back up. The good thing about DeSantis is he's not Trump, but like you said, he's that youngkin. He's not Trump, but he's Trump. He has Trump's policies. He's a little bit more polished. But the GOP right now, they really haven't paid a whole lot of it. Outwardly, they haven't paid a whole lot of attention to DeSantis. Within the, inwardly, they're freaking out a little bit. I've read a bunch of articles, and the GOP is scared of DeSantis because DeSantis is still, even though he's an outsider, he's governor, but he's generally a political outsider, and they are afraid that he's going to come into DC. If he was to win the White House, that he's going to do the same thing that Trump did. He's not going to be able to drain the swamp. He's not going to be able to fix, he's not going to be able to fix the system, but he's going to expose a lot of people for exactly who they are. And after 4 years of Trump and that happening, the establishment does not want that happening again. And I think the establishment is going to do everything in their power to keep DeSantis from becoming the nominee. And if he does, then I think they're going to do everything in their power to keep him from winning. So Mike Pence, was reading a couple of articles, and it was some of these are on Substack, and it's from some of the talking heads mostly on Twitter, but they have some well placed sources. So Mike Pence has been meeting with Michigan top donors, including the DeVos family. Everybody remembers Betsy DeVos. So he's going around and he's drumming up funding right now. Now, whether he's drumming up funding for himself or for somebody else, don't know. But he's going around and he's talking to, some of the movers and shakers, asking with his, with the donation hat out. So I think
Can he win?
Can Pence win?
Can he win the national election?
No, I personally, I don't think he can.
And DeSantis gives you Florida, so you think the GOP would they would throw away the election, right? Because if you push DeSantis out, because the difference with Bernie was he was an independent. Granted, he ran under the Democratic caucus, but he is an independent. You push DeSantis out, Florida's gone, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you think they're willing to throw the election to keep DeSantis from being the nominee?
If they look at him as they look at Trump, they look at DeSantis as an outsider. If they view him through that same lens, that this guy's an outsider, he's not one of us, he's going to come in and he's going to interrupt our cash cow. Yes, I think they throw the election just to keep that from happening. Now, if they look at DeSantis and say, okay, hey man, this guy's just going to come in, and if we can keep him focused on offense against the Democrats for 4 years, then we're good. But, Trump did that. He was on offense against the Democrats, but Trump was also on offense against the rest of the GOP as well.
Everybody.
Exactly. Which was not a bad thing, right? That's what we wanted. I mean, that's what this country needs. Career politicians need to be exposed for exactly who they are. I think there's some variables in there, but I wouldn't. I'll say this, and I'll throw it over to Luke. I would not put it past the GOP to screw over every other candidate to get Mike Pence in, or to get their candidate of their choice in. I just wouldn't put it past them.
They had a dry run at that, trying to get Jeb in. It didn't work because of Trump, but now they know what to expect when it comes to Trump if Trump decides to throw his hat in there. Because boy, oh boy, if y'all remember, those in the audience, I know Roger and Josh do, man, the GOP and the RNC was all in on Jeb, exclamation point. And it's like, man, the guy has less energy than Mike Pence. I mean, it was just, God, totally not electable. But on the other hand, I always think back to how the GOP and the RNC and all that stuff must have been just sick to their stomach, because if you look back, hindsight, I think almost anybody could have beaten Hillary. I mean, she was just totally, maybe not Jeb, but, good Lord. I mean, she was just totally not electable. So I really think that Trump kind of, I'm torn on this one. I'll say it again. I've said it many times. I really don't want him to run. In my opinion, I don't think it's what's best for our country right now. On the other hand, I don't think Pence is what's best for our country right now either. It's that gravy train, like Josh was saying. So let me run some stuff by y'all. Liz Cheney, right? I want to go back to her. I think that if Pence did win, if an establishment person did win, maybe even DeSantis, depends on who he sells his soul to in the lead up. I think Liz Cheney is angling at a secretaryship. I think she's angling at something like that, vice president. She wants to be like her daddy, and her daddy and all that money is what's pushing her forward. She just makes me absolutely sick to my stomach. I did quite a bit of research on her the other day, looking to see if any of her kids were in the military. I don't think they are. I think they're all too young, actually. But do you think her kids are going to be in the military? She tweeted out something. I'm sorry for those Marines that crashed. This one person from Wyoming, he served his country. And I had to tweet out, and I was like, he served his country, so your kids won't have to. And that's the bottom line. People like that, their kids don't serve. It's ridiculous. It's serve in any way other than politics. That's it. Be a cop, go work at the SEC, whatever. That's service. But they won't do that. So, Roger, I'm making a little chart right here. Remember the Brady Bunch? And I want you to write this down to give me an answer, because I got something else to say. So I'm going to kick it to a completely different topic. So I've got, remember the Brady Bunch? I've got the Rhino Bunch. And I've got Liz Cheney, Mitt Romney, Mitch McConnell, Dan Crenshaw, Adam Kinzinger, Mike Pence. Now I need 2 more. So keep that in mind. But the different topic I want to talk about, and you can go ahead and talk about president if you want, but what we didn't get into in the last episode that I can remember, my memory's getting worse, but we didn't talk about the Kavanaugh assassination attempt. Now, if you saw the Culper's quick takes, LA Times, they did a whole puff piece story on the would-be assassin, saying he's the victim. He saw marshals outside the house and he chickened out, went, sat down on a curb and called the police and saying, I'm having mental problems. And the whole article was about this poor kid. But at the end of the day, if those marshals hadn't been out there, that, we might have a dead justice on our hands, which would be a real tragedy. So what do you make of that, Roger? And who else can I fill into the Rhino Bunch here?
It's kind of funny because I've been meaning to do this for a while. Because Josh, everybody, our listeners and viewers know, everybody gets to a point with Josh that he just says F them. And so I wanted to make the list, like who do we hate this week? Like who do we tell him to F off this week? Because we've been pushing his buttons with DeSantis and the red flag laws in Florida, like he does with us with Romney. And eventually it takes, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 texts. And then finally Josh is like, well, F DeSantis too. So it's funny because Luke's got his Rhino list. It might as well just be the F off list. But I'm curious about your list. So one, well, let me go backwards a little bit. Liz Cheney didn't have a shot. She lost her seat with the GOP leadership. Wyoming doesn't even recognize her as part of the Republican Party. She's done. I don't know. You talk about some cabinet seats or secretary, dude, I don't know what her political future holds because I don't think she's got any of the support of the right, unless she just tries to come out as an independent. But you're not going to win in Wyoming coming out as an independent. I mean, I guess the midterms and stuff like that will tell, but she might be done, dude. I don't know. But on to your rhino list. So you would consider Pence and McConnell both rhinos? Like the rest of your list is
Not
good.
Pence. Not Pence. I wrote Mike Pence in there because we were talking about him. But no, I actually would not consider Mike Pence a rhino. Mitch McConnell.
Ben Sass. I'd add Ben
There's a-
Sass to that list.
Ben Sass. Okay.
I
But
mean,
no,
you
I
could put
take Mike Pence off.
Murkowski on that list.
Yeah.
You could put Murkowski
Collins,
or Collins on there.
Murkowski, Collins, yeah, all that. The typical folks, like when they say, this was a bipartisan bill and 5 Republicans voted, those 5 Republicans right there, they're the same ones every single time, right? I mean, and that's part of the problem. You should, like, if you just see the stats and they say, hey, 5 Republicans voted, you shouldn't be able to know that it's, Murkowski and Collins and Romney. I mean, you shouldn't be able to say that. But you do because it's the same 5 or 4 or whatever every single time. So, and I would throw Ben Sass up there because he's just a complete douchebag. He is a Mitch McConnell wannabe. Because here's the thing with Mitch McConnell: like him, love him, hate him, whatever. He is the epitome of a politician. That's what he is. Okay, when you look at, and again, good, bad, or indifferent, when you look at the epitome of a senator and what they're supposed to do for their party, that is Mitch McConnell. Ben Sass is a Mitch McConnell wannabe because he's just not as smart. He's not as smart. The dude got caught, busting on some live recordings, some hidden recordings or whatever, talking crap about Trump and the GOP and this and that. So I would definitely add him to the list. But I think with McConnell, he is more about the institution of the Senate and being controlled by the GOP, which I do want to throw out to you guys, because I was pretty interested in this, especially with the Senate. So the Senate, I mean, for our listeners out there, the whole point of the filibuster for the Senate is that is supposed to be the place for unlimited debate, right? Historically speaking, that is supposed to be the place that there's equal representation from every single state, and you can debate endlessly until some resolution comes through or not, right? Which is the whole point of the filibuster. That seems to have been lost in the last several years. And I'll throw it over to Josh for his opinion, because I don't think I've seen this in the past. And maybe you have, I don't know. So are you guys familiar with the Senate Project? So they are going to do an Oxford-style debate between Lindsey Graham and Bernie Sanders. It's going to be live on June 13th. I think they're doing it at noon Eastern, which kind of pisses me off. I kind of wish they would make it prime time. But they're basically going to have 60 minutes. I think Brett Baird is going to moderate this thing, and they're going to do it Oxford style. And they're going to have 3 or 4 topics that come up, and Bernie Sanders and Lindsey Graham. And one thing about Bernie Sanders, right? I'm not a Bernie guy, but he is who he is. There is no, he calls himself that democratic socialist. He stands by his words and this and that, and I think he's wrong on just about everything. But he doesn't mince a whole lot of words, right? But it will be interesting to see. Well, I guess I don't recall there being another Senate project. It looks like they're going to have a series of these debates. So what do you think, Josh? I mean, you think this is something that the Americans will tune into and actually learn something? Or you think it's just wasted airtime, 60 minutes at noon on Monday?
Well, I think the people that care will tune in, and take a look at it. And granted, yeah, I mean, it's noon on a work day, so some people aren't going to be able to. Fortunately, I will. I would like to see more things like this instead of, hey, you get your 5 minutes during a hearing, and okay, well, I got to put all my talking points into those 5 minutes and not actually have a back and forth, a discussion, right? And we talked about it, during the last presidential election. I would love nothing more than to see a Lincoln Douglas style debate, between presidential candidates. I would give good money to see Joe Rogan moderate a 3-hour Joe Rogan podcast with the 2 presidential candidates.
Oh, hell yeah.
Dude, that would be, that would be amazing, instead of getting up there and having some partisan hack from either side moderate a debate, which, okay, you have 60 seconds to, tell us how you're going to fix the border, and Luke spoke to that. you can't you cannot communicate what needs to be done to fix the border and the immigration system with our country in 60 seconds. It's not feasible. So I think it's a good idea, even if it turns into a mudslinging contest. I think the idea in itself is good, and I would personally like to see more of it. um and I tell you the other thing, if we want to fix the Senate, abolish the 17th Amendment, get rid of the 17th Amendment. The founders originally wanted senators appointed by the state because they were there to represent the state, not their political party. And that's kind of what you want to fix the Senate. They're there, senators are there and they're like, oh, this is my party, my party, my party. You're not there to represent the party. You're there to represent your state. And then the representatives, you're there to represent your constituents in your districts. Dan Crenshaw, you got, we talked about it before. You got Dan Crenshaw, tweeting about stuff that's going on in, some town in California. It's like, hey, man, check it out. Nobody gives a shit about your opinion on what's going on out there. What are you doing right now, today, for the people of your district? That's why you are where you are. Don't worry about what's going on, elsewhere. Like, you focus on your constituents. So anyway, yeah, I think it's a great idea, and I would absolutely love to see more of it. And while we're at it, let's do a constitutional convention and get rid of the 17th Amendment at the same time. So,
like, no senators?
No, senators go back to being appointed by the state, not
gotcha,
elected.
versus elected.
Yeah,
That
like
would
it
be
was
interesting.
originally intended.
Well, it didn't take them long to, 1789, so they went a few years with it that way. I'd have to do some research on exactly what the thought process was back then on, why they went ahead and came forth with that. No, no, I'm wrong on that. Revised 19. What the hell? I don't even know what I'm looking at.
No,
So,
it was
Josh,
after.
how,
It was well
how
after
would
1900 when
it was
they
revised revision in 1992? So I don't know what that revision was. I'd have to do some research. So what would that look like, Josh? Can you expound on that a little bit? We get rid. So how would the states appoint?
So I'd have to go dig into the Constitution and take a look at it and see how exactly
Probably
that
the
process
governor,
laid
right?
out. But no, it would be the legislature. It would be the state legislature. And then again, I would have to read. Yeah, I would have to go in and read it. So somebody can correct my math on this, but I think it would be the legislature. The two chambers would come together and be like, okay, this is who we're appointing, and then I think the governor also gets a vote. But then I think it can be challenged by the state legislature and vetoed. I think, again, I'd have to really get in the weeds on it. But here's a
Well, I know
problem.
with vacancies, like with Arizona, and again, it may not be the exact same thing, but vacancies, the governor appoints, at least for Arizona. So I'm assuming maybe every state has a different process, which, 10th Amendment, right? It says that, yeah, you select and govern your state how you see fit.
Yeah, possibly. Like I said, I'd have to go read about it. But I was hitting the wave tops on it, and started thinking about it. We have the House, right, which is representative from your district. They are there to represent the people. The original intent was then to have the Senate, who was there representative of the states as a whole, right? And so some people say, well, they're elected by the people of the state. They're there to represent the state. But that's not the way it was originally intended, and it seemed to be a little bit better, with the state nominating senators, vice the people electing them. You elect your representative, the state, I won't say elect, the state, designates the state level, the state representatives.
So originally it was 1912. Finally found that, and the issue with the way it used to be, and why they petitioned for change and all that, was because of basically legislative corruption, if you will. There's a lot of corruption in the process back then, and then electoral deadlocks within the states, and other issues with electoral deadlock. So those were the two big issues of why they changed it to begin with. But I guess you guys just said, F Luke, we're not going to talk about Kavanaugh because y'all are basically left wing media outlets. I bring something up that's like assassination attempt of a Supreme Court justice. Y'all just ignore it.
Dude, you
Just
carried
like the
like four topics
mainstream
in
media.
one question. You know what?
Roger.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing with Kavanaugh, right? And you started to see some of it played on the right wing news. Uh, this was much like everything we've called for the last 16, 17, 18 months. This was, this was no surprise. I mean, you have Schumer up there, doing his little high pitched squeaky voice, you've unleashed the world. I mean, it's like, what do you think? And I hate the fact that they are protected under that debate clause or whatever the hell it is. It's like the dude literally, and I get it. If you're on the floor, I probably have more leniency for that, even though I think it's misleading because, as I'm sure we'll get into the January 6th committee, they can just outright lie. I mean, they can outright lie. They can take things out of context. They cut videos. They can do whatever they want. Things that would never, ever, ever stand up in any type of court of law anywhere. But they're allowed to do it and get away with it. And then you've got a guy like Schumer gets up there. It's so the hypocrisy, man. When you talk about, well, we're blaming everything on Trump for January 6th because he didn't get out there and condemn and this and that. Well, then you know what? What about Schumer? All right, because that's exactly when you look at these crazy people out there doing this stuff. That's what they're saying. Well, I thought my party wanted me to do this. They are taking advantage of the lone wolves. They want the lone wolves that way because it keeps their hands clean, right? You can't have Schumer telling somebody or the DNC telling somebody or Wasserman Schultz telling somebody or whatever. But you just put the message out there. You put the message out there because you know that there are those lone wolves that are mentally unstable, like this guy appeared to be. That are going to go off on their own. And you can say, hey, man, one, I'm protected under the debate clause. I kind of say what I want to say. And, I really didn't mean that. When I said that, you're going to rot in hell, I really didn't mean that you're going to actually go to hell and rot or, for somebody to, to shoot you in the face or whatever. They know exactly what's coming up. And you know what? It plays to their agenda because now you've got a guy that went to go try to assassinate a Supreme Court justice, but it plays in their hands with the whole gun control narrative now, right? It even adds fuel to that. And that's what the big protest that was down here when they started out was the June 11th, the big, anti-gun, gun control thing or whatever, but it plays right into their agenda. So it's like, Josh, do you see that any different? I mean, I think, well, like Schumer, should he be held accountable? And then how do you hold him accountable for his statements?
Yeah, no, he absolutely should be held accountable. And I think, I'd have to go back again. I'd have to go back and look. So I know they're protected, there's protected speech under the debate clause, but I'm not sure. Is that only while they are on the floor of the Senate actually debating? Because I believe Schumer was at a rally when he
Right.
said that,
So
right?
it was
So,
originally supposed to protect them on the floor, but nobody's challenged it because they're all the same, right? So they've expanded that, but nobody's ever challenged it.
yeah. See, if I, again, man, it goes back. It goes back if I was a state attorney general or if I was, you know, in a position to challenge it, like I would be curious. I would challenge it, to rein that in if possible, because I don't think you should be able to go. We talk about spirited and healthy debate, and that was the purpose of the Senate, and that was the purpose of the filibuster. Rather, have that healthy, open debate. But at the same time, we talk about, oh, well, hate speech and, this, that, and the other. And we talk about, Trump inciting a crowd, and Schumer's full quote, on this was, quote, I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you've released a whirlwind and you will pay the price. You won't know what hits you if you go forward with these awful decisions. Right. So that right there, if somebody came up to me on the street and said that to me, like I'm already preparing, like, okay, this person wants to fight me right here. Right. This person is
Oh,
making
absolutely.
that is a
Absolutely.
threat. That is an absolute threat. And I'm gonna respond accordingly. And you layer on that with Maxine Waters, a couple of years ago, get out, get in their face, in restaurants and public places, don't, no peace. And then layer on AOC's, protests are, supposed to make you uncomfortable, layer on Kamala's 2020, statements about, BLM and burning places down, and then her active participation in, bailing BLM rioters out of jail, especially in Minneapolis. And you absolutely could make a case, for incitements of violence. I think now the whole Kavanaugh thing. Could you imagine one? I know how we got here. Everybody, I mean, we've watched this happen. It should be no secret. I saw a couple people tweeting like, "How did we get to this point?" And it was like, "Okay, you haven't been paying attention. Um, we've been on this path for a while." But could you imagine, one of the conservative, well, I'll say any Supreme Court justice being assassinated, but could you imagine one of the conservative Supreme Court justices being assassinated, and then there's another one, Biden gets to appoint and confirm, another Supreme Court justice? I think at that point, dude, I don't know that there would be any coming back from that. I think the national divorce would start to begin in earnest, a little bit quicker than it's already going to happen. It's if we're going to do this, I was listening to Ben Shapiro. And Shapiro, he holds a very hard stand that he's like, Bernie Sanders was not responsible for Steve Scalise and the others getting shot at the baseball game by the Bernie Sanders supporter, and he's like, Obama was not responsible for the police officers in Dallas getting killed, by that one dude. I think that was 2020, 2019, 2020 timeframe. And but it's at some point the rhetoric does have to de-escalate, or people are going to talk themselves into something they're not going to be able to talk themselves out of. And if we're going to have these sham January 6 hearings, it was so ridiculous. I saw some of the snippets on on social media, and it was so crazy. It's like, okay, if you're going to have a hearing, or they called it a trial, right? Okay, well, it's not a trial, because nobody's been charged with anything. Trump hasn't been charged with anything. The FBI even came out and was like, yeah, no, there was no coordinated effort. And they clipped Trump's speech, to talk about, they're taking your freedom, they're taking this, and they're going to take that, and then they cut out the part where he's like, go home in peace, where he specifically states, do not do anything crazy, do not, destroy anything, don't burn anything down. And then, and then they admit that those clowns, the Proud Boys, actually went to the Capitol. They never went to Trump's rally. They never went. They gathered up and went straight to the Capitol. They never went to Trump's rally, and they were already at the Capitol, starting to do their thing before Trump's rally even finished. Right. And the whole thing is, we all know it's so ridiculous. It's such a sham. But I don't know, Luke. At what point do we tone down the rhetoric, or do we just say, you know what, we just let it roll, and just kind of see what happens? I think it's like the Army. I think nobody's going to really genuinely do anything until there's a catastrophic event. And even then, they probably won't do anything. It'll just be a blame game, playing Who Shot John, literally after that. So I don't know where we go from here when we normalize, assassination attempts on Supreme Court justices.
Yeah, I mean, what you said, I never really thought of it like that, and I should have, about, well, God forbid, if the guy would have been successful and then Biden appoints another Supreme Court justice. Oh, dude, that would be a bad situation. And to answer your question, do we tone down the rhetoric? I mean, I don't see how that's possible right now. I do think catastrophic type event, something real, not COVID, not 9/11 Pearl Harbor real, or some sort of like a John F. Kennedy assassination type thing. And I do not think that should happen at all. That would be, I don't want anything bad to happen. I'm just answering your question. I think that that's what it would take. I just don't see it changing anytime soon. Social media, despite their best efforts, is making it worse. And I don't know if you guys have seen that creepy ass Facebook commercial about how much they're investing in
Yep.
security.
Yes,
Ew,
it's
God.
weird.
We have 60,000 people looking out for your best interest. That's more than the FBI. And I'm like, God, who was the moron living in their bubble in Silicon Valley who thought that this was a good idea? That's enough to fill 8, football stadiums. It's like, Jesus. It's like, what my takeaway is, and I know what they're going for. I get it. But my takeaway is, man, you guys got an army working on this stuff. How come it's not better? And if it's not better, what are all these people doing? 60,000 people, and you say the FBI in the same. Wow, dude, I thought that was very, 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 very creepy. And I know Roger probably have something to say about that. It makes my skin crawl just thinking about that commercial right now. The January 6th things. Oh gosh. If you listen to Ben Shapiro, I'm sure Josh heard the latest. It's like his analysis was spot on, man. If you're going to have a prime time produced, made for TV telethon, basically, you don't open up with morons in Congress going on monologues about stupid stuff nobody cares about. You open up with a bang. I think the combined audience, I thought I heard the combined audience is about 19 million. And
Yeah,
that was across all those networks, CNN, MSNBC, and whoever else was covering it. So 19 million, I guess it's a pretty big audience, but yeah, I don't know. I didn't even watch because I know what it is. There's no, it's not a 9/11 commission type thing, because no one's asking questions on what are the Capitol Police's procedures. No one's asking procedural type questions. No one's getting to the bottom of anything that I can see. Now, when I say I didn't watch it, I don't watch it, but I'll look at some analysis and I'll look at some transcripts and things like that. I just don't think it's really worth my time listening to Alexandria occasional cortex up there, talking about whatever she's talking about. It's just, I don't know. I think that Ray Epps, right? That was the guy. I was trying to think of his name and I was doing searches on Google. Yeah, good luck with that. Who was the guy in the crowd before January 6th telling everybody to storm the Capitol? You're not going to find that result on Google, brother. Let me tell you, I went down 3 pages and couldn't find Ray Epps. Like, who's Ray Epps? What's his story? And we're getting so far away from the actual truth. All 3 of us, and probably most of the audience, knows this political theater, but man, where are the real answers to these things? Josh always, he gets on he does this thing on Twitter where he'll throw down the gauntlet on the Culper Canteen Cup Twitter feed, and some moron will come back with something, and I'll sit there and wait for 5 minutes. Surely Josh is still on. I can't let this go. 5 more minutes. Can't let this go. And so I got to take up. Josh threw that in the gauntlet. I guess I got to go slap this guy in the face. So we're going back and forth about the Gretchen Whitmer thing. And, he's like, well, there was a crime committed. And it's like, dude, can we not get like the actual truth about how far the FBI went in convincing these people to do what they did? Same with Ray Epps. They're gonna come at you. The 3 of us have worked in the classified realm for a while, and you don't ever want to give up your sources and methods. But guess what, dude? We all know anyway. You're not protecting any sources and methods, FBI, if you come out and said, here's what we actually did. Sure, you're going to hurt Ray Epps in his private life and stuff like that. But Ben, hey, there's this really cool thing called the Witness Protection Program, and it's not just used for witnesses. When people got to disappear, the U.S. Marshals take care of that stuff. So, man, don't come at me with that. Kind of all over the place here. I just want the truth, man. Do I think the people that stormed in there, I think I've said over and over, do I think that they were stupid? Absolutely stupid. Not a good idea. Not in that environment. Breaking things and pooping on the walls and whatever, that was wrong too. But at the same time, I can also recognize there was a serious sense of frustration in the country. I mean, I don't want to say walk and chew gum at the same time, but 2 things can be true at the same time. It was wrong to go into the Capitol. Sure. People were frustrated too. Yes. I don't know. Everything's so split. There's one side or the other. So, I'm kind of talking in a circle here, but back to Josh's original point. tone down the rhetoric, sure, I think it's a good idea, but it ain't going to happen. Roger, thoughts on that? January 6th. I don't even know what they're calling it. The hearings, telethon, fundraiser.
Well, it's a distraction, right?
Absolutely, it is.
It's a complete distraction. They look at what they tied Trump up with Russia for 4 years, right? And even now, it's continuing on. That's what it is. The January 6th thing will never go away because it's a distraction. And I'm sitting here and I'm like you, Fox didn't even cover it. I didn't watch any of it. I saw some snippets here and there. And, they're talking about how effective it was and all this new information that came out. Okay, here's the bottom line. The point of the January 6th committee, and not even them, the FBI's investigation that has already been concluded, is, hey, was this a coordinated effort by Trump or anybody else to truly overthrow the U.S. government? It's very clear to any sane individual out there that no, he wasn't involved with this. Now, as things started happening, can you say that him and some political operatives on the inside were saying, hey, this might not be a bad thing, or maybe it is a good thing, or trying to take advantage of what's going on? Absolutely. They're politicians. That's what they do. But to sit there and basically what they have done is they have demonized, and listen to it, whether you like Trump or you hate him or not, they have demonized the gathering. They have conflated the two. Okay, so just like Luke said, the people that went into the Capitol that stormed that, they're dickbags, right? I got it, man. They're horrible people. Charge them, arrest them, throw them in prison, whatever, even though none of them were charged with insurrection. Because guess what? Contrary to popular belief in MSM, there was no insurrection, according to the FBI. So none of them have been charged with insurrection, but charge them with whatever crime that you need to. I think the most serious one I thought was like trespassing or something like that. And oh, by the way, how many did the quote unquote insurrectionists die there? Or how many people did they kill? 0, right? I believe one of them got shot in the face. But anyway, they have demonized the right to protest, right? And you can't make this stuff up, because when you look at the right to protest, one, going back to Kavanaugh, I can't believe Supreme Court justices don't already have security guards. I mean, Josh, do they have security guards? Do you know if they do or not? Or it's amazing to me that they don't already have full-time security.
To my knowledge, they do not have security outside of the Supreme
Why
Court
not?
building.
It's threat based. It's all threat based. If there's an increased threat stream, then marshals or whoever will take over, and but it's all based on threat. But it's not constant. It wasn't.
See, in my opinion, that's wrong. It's like, okay, guess what? President of the United States obviously deserves, 24-hour security. Vice President of the United States obviously deserves 24-hour security. Hey, you're one of 9 Supreme Court justices. You probably deserve 24-hour security if you deem so, right? And maybe they have a say in that. I don't know. I'm not as familiar, with that process or whatever. But it's just mind-boggling to me that you've only got 9 justices that represent, 1/3 of our government essentially. Or the power of our government, and you have no full-time security on those folks. But what they've done is they've demonized the ability to gather and protest. On one hand, they want to say, well, yeah, you can go right up to the guy's door and protest. If you're a Supreme Court justice, if you're a Supreme Court justice that doesn't rule in favor of us in the left and our agenda, then yeah, we should be able to protest right on your doorstep. Okay. Even if the protest is to influence a ruling, which that is clearly, against U.S. code. But hey, Trump's gathering, right? We'll just lump it all together, and that's just all illegal. That's just all bad. Everything they've put out on this stuff, it's just been wrong. When I read all this stuff, new facts and information, it's all text messages that are going on during the storming of the Capitol and after. And you know what? At that point, you've got politicians that are trying to take advantage of the situation or mitigate it or whatever they're going to do, to take advantage of that incident. What kills me is it is a distraction from what's really going on, because as Josh tweeted out, first thing, I think when the Treasury Secretary or all of them get these numbers, I think they actually tweet it to Josh first. Inflation, right? 8.6%. And oh, by the way, you've even got your own president up there talking about fuel and food and this, that. Hey, I hate to break this down to you. Like we mentioned last episode, food and fuel aren't even factored into that inflation number. Because if they were, you would see 90% inflation. Like I'm not shitting you, right? We'd be at 90% inflation, 80% inflation. That is goods and services. At 8%, 8.6%, which is a 40-year high. They don't want to talk about any of that. And here I found the 33%. So, as I go trolling a little bit on Twitter, it's kind of entertaining. But, they were talking about inflation and yada, yada, yada. And so this, somebody on the left comes in, no truer words. It sure beats what the Ukrainians are enduring. The pandemic and the war have wreaked havoc on the world's economy, talking about global inflation. As full employment is approached, it naturally stimulates inflation too. The major current variables are not within the control of any president. You are out of your effing mind. It's like, take a basic freaking economics class. Okay. I don't want to go on too long here, but I'll close it out with here's what causes inflation, right? And we've talked about this for the last couple of years now. We can actually say that we've talked about it for a couple of years now. For the last couple of years, long story short, when you pump too much money into the economy, that causes inflation, right? When money is too easy to come by, when it's too easy to spend, when there's lack of goods and services, when supply chain is tightened, when interest rates are low, when there's free-flowing money in, your dollar becomes worthless, right? Or it loses value. And that's what happens. As your dollar begins to lose value, you have to spend more of it to buy an item. And then as those, go ahead, Luke. He's doing a little hand thing.
I was just gonna say, would increased wages, like if wages just across the board went up overnight? Yeah, I was just gonna
artificially, right? Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the point Luke's just bringing up. It's an artificial increase. Okay, it's not based on the labor market skill sets. It's an artificial increase. So that's one way you pump in more money. The $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan. Okay, like I'm surprised that, hey, you want to know why inflation's where it's at? That's why, right there. That's one of the reasons why. Right, a major reason why. When you look at all of our goods and services, while your transportation secretary while he was on paternity leave, and those hundreds of thousands of connexes were sitting on ships and ports, that restricts, right? Makes the global supply chain smaller. It tightens it, so it's harder to buy goods. You have to spend more money to buy those goods. And then, as we're bringing that up, Luke just typed up here. We were talking about the other day. I forget the number, how many prisoners received stimulus money, and it's over $800 million. Dude, and this is where, I always bag on Josh all the time when we talk about money and this and that. But you see stuff like this, it's like, man, good Lord, like the amount of money, you get to a point where you can't even fathom it anymore. And what pisses me off the most about this, and I'll kick it over to Josh, it's our money. This is our money. How much money have we sent to the Ukraine? Dude, there are goods and services that need to be done here. When you talk about veterans, and not just veterans, but veterans, homelessness. I'm here in Portland. Dude, you can't walk 3 blocks without like homeless, camps just set up. And they're getting nice, by the way. Because one of those dudes, I'm pretty sure he had a Traeger set up outside his, okay. I think his Traeger was nicer than mine. And these camps, they're like stabilized, dude. Like he spiked this thing down. He ain't going anywhere, right? But there are a lot of folks here that need a lot of help. We always talk about the money and this, that. Hey, man, they're making it rain like they're out at the strip club, and they're making it rain with your money, and that's what pisses me off. So I know I ranted a little bit, so I'll throw it over to Josh.
Yeah, the last thing on the January 6th thing, I don't think the people that went in the Capitol. I mean, it was really stupid. Like that, I mean, that was really, really dumb. Anybody who had an inkling of sense and was not caught up in emotion knew, like, hey, this is not a good idea. I don't think they're terrible people. I think some of them, made a poor choice. Should they have been arrested? Should they pay their penance? Absolutely. The fact that some of them are still sitting in jail for what is, basically, a trespassing charge. Because nobody's, as Roger said, nobody's been charged with insurrection. It wasn't an insurrection, and all the politicians keep talking about, they tried to overthrow the United States government. Remember, not one person had a weapon, not one. If the United States government is so weak that a mob of unarmed people can overthrow it, well, then we got some bigger problems. than a dude in a Viking helmet and a loincloth, right? So maybe that's why they are so terrified of of AR-15s. If the unarmed people can overthrow them, imagine what an armed populace could do. So it's the whole thing. It's kabuki theater is what it is, and it's nothing more. So on the on the inflation piece, you're absolutely right. It's a distraction. We talk about the value of a dollar. So in 1913, the Federal Reserve was created, and that was when a dollar was worth a dollar. In 1933, FDR, issued an executive order, made it illegal to hold gold coin, bullion, or certificates. 1944, Bretton Woods established the United States dollar as the world's reserve currency, and then in 71, Nixon closed out the gold window. Kind of ended Bretton Woods in the beginning of the modern day flat currency system. By this time, guess what? That dollar, it's not worth a dollar anymore. It's really, the spending power on it is really less. And it continues to fall to today, and we've already we've covered it multiple times. The inflation, you can't blame it on Putin, because inflation was going up before Putin reinvaded the Ukraine. The cost of gas was going up long before Putin reinvaded the Ukraine. People will be happy to know that the Russian ruble is at an all-time high now. It is no longer in the gutter, like our economy is. So there you have that. And I read a report this morning. I just kind of laughed at it. They are now finding weapons and weapon systems that have been provided by Western countries on the Ukrainian black market, and the black market, in the surrounding area in Eastern Europe. So, hey, great on you, all those javelins. I can't wait to see what the Taliban and some violent extremist organization, pick your terrorist group, what they can do when they get their hands on that javelin, along with a clue to go with it, and some of our other guided missiles, because that's exactly what we want. We wanted to pour a bunch of our most advanced weapon systems into a hot war, in a very corrupt country, and now they'll wind up on the global black market. So good job, State Department. Good job, Department of Defense, man. You guys are on it. Well done, Anthony Blinken and Austin. Man, you guys really got your shit together. Maybe what was her name? Left Eye Flournoy. Maybe she should have been the SecDef. I don't know. We covered that.
Oh, you dug deep on that one, man. That was a good one. Michelle Left Eye Flournoy. Yeah, man. That is a good one. So here's a little piece of trivia for the audience there about javelin systems. And I think the first place those are going is to Hezbollah, Hamas and Hezbollah. But I'm sure they'll find their ways into other places as well. So anyway, when they were developing the javelin, everything was going great except for one thing, and it took them, I can't remember who did. It wasn't Lockheed who did the javelin, but it was somebody like that. It was one of these major weapons developers. The hardest thing for them to figure out was how to super cool the sensor on the javelin. So there's this little tiny piece of hardware in there that super cools it instantaneously so that they can track the target. I don't know. I think I saw Modern Marvels on that or something. Josh's type in. Northrop Grumman. Thank you, Josh. So anyway, I thought that was fascinating. I'm probably the only one in our whole audience of 7 that finds that fascinating. So inflation, little anecdotal inflation stories here. The wife and I trying to get out and do more date nights, trying to get back to the 80s. You know what I'm saying? Remember 80s? Dinner and a movie, or a movie and dinner? And man, I'll tell you, dude, everything is worse after COVID. I lived in Europe for a while, and I didn't get snooty over there because I lived in Slovenia where, if anybody from Slovenia is still listening, forgive me, but the food is just not that good there. You'd be surprised in Italy. The food is okay, but you've got to seek out, there's my dog. You got to seek out the good places to eat. So it's not like I got spoiled or snooty over in Europe, but the food here at restaurants is just not that good overall, especially chain restaurants. You find a good restaurant here in Lubbock, Texas, and you can't even get in if you try to go after 7 on a Friday night. I mean, and those are just okay. I guess what I'm saying is I give a shout out to my wife. She's such a good cook. And the stuff that I make, in my opinion, is better than restaurants. And I'll tell you something, it's cheaper, but not by much because those grocery prices are going up. As the wife and I were sitting there at the only restaurant we could find where there wasn't a hour long wait was BJ's. I'm sitting there eating. It's just like, this is not good. It's really not that good at all. And then this morning, again, I was feeling every bite of that chicken sandwich I got. It was awful. It's just the service is not as good. And I don't blame these kids. At least they're out there working. But this is their first real job, I guess. And I don't know, there's just a different work ethic around the service. And of course, today we go to the store and my wife picks up a thing of cocoa butter, and she's just like, this thing is smaller than the last one I bought, but it costs the same price. And I had to explain to her what shrinkflation is, whereas a bag of Fritos or whatever used to be 14 ounces. Now it's 11, but it costs the same price. So you're seeing shrinkflation in real time. So I know what everybody's wondering right now. Where we ate? What movie did we go see? Brother, we went to see Top Gun Maverick. I am not the biggest Tom Cruise fan in the world. And I try to separate an actor's politics, obviously, from the last episode, their politics from their acting ability. So I will go see Tom Cruise movies. I'll go see Matthew McConaughey movies. But I'll tell you what, man, I was very impressed with that movie. No spoilers, but I was impressed. And I was skeptical walking into it. And my wife, we were leaving, and the wife says, I think that was better than the first. And I was like, I disagree. Because you would not have had the second movie without the first. In other words, without the first movie, Top Gun Maverick would not have hit people our age who were old enough to go to the theater, see Top Gun and understand it back in 1986. It really pulls at your heartstrings, man. You get a wave of nostalgia, and it's not cheap nostalgia either. They really, really go after you on it. But it's not sad. It's just, it gives you a good feeling, man. It's a nice, good 80s movie where there's bad guys, there's good guys, it wraps up the story. It was just really good, man. I was really, really impressed. So I would recommend you two guys go see it. Audience, if you don't like it, I'd like to hear why. It's a good movie. So real quick, I just came across an article and I'm starting to sympathize with Vladimir Putin a little bit, just a little bit. Because I think it was yesterday or the day before. No, it was 2 days ago. The hard rock punk band Pussy Riot hangs Matriarchy Now banner in the Texas state capitol to support abortion rights. The group will mint the photo of the moment as an NFT, and all proceeds will go toward abortion rights. Now, I know that Vladimir Putin had his own problems with Pussy Riot, but now they're effing with my state? Dude, go hang your banner somewhere else. Don't do it in the state capitol. Okay, hang it in downtown, 6th Street in Austin, where all the homeless people are. That's cool. Austin loves that, but don't hang it in my state capitol. So I may be petitioning Greg Abbott to call Putin and ask him how he dealt with this band Pussy Riot. You know what I'm saying? So Josh, you're right, man. Texas is getting lit, bro. It's getting lit.
I'm telling you, when I was out there, and this was, a couple of years ago, I spent that week in Fort Worth, and dude, even Tarrant County, and I know we went back and forth on the tech stuff, man. It was like, dude, even Tarrant County, bro, there was a lot of Subaru Outbacks and Beto stickers, man, and man buns. I was down in Sundance Square one morning. We went and got some coffee, and I was sitting in Sundance Square. The sun was coming up. I was like, I didn't have to be where I needed to be for, another like 2 hours, and it was, just a couple blocks away. So I was sitting there just watching the world go by, and I was like, I counted in the span of probably 60 minutes. There were probably, I would say 50 males.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, at least 10 of them had man buns.
Oof.
And I was like, damn, dude, what is going on in Fort Worth, Texas? Like, I expect that in Austin, right? Because Austin is the Berkeley of Texas. We have it here in North Carolina. It's Asheville. Every state's got one. But I was like, damn it, like this is Fort Worth. Like there's a big, huge ass mural of the Chisholm Trail behind me. And dude's walking by, man. But I was like, damn, man, dude, Johnny Cash be rolling over his grave right now.
He would. It's funny because, there's a couple of observations I've made, and granted, it's not all over the state. But I heard a guy tell me a long time ago, and this was pre Toyota Tacoma days where they, came out with like the deep forest green Tacomas and Tundras. So a green car became, and Subarus to this day, green cars become more fashionable. But this guy told me back in the early 2000s, he's like, anytime you see a green car, anytime, and I think this was actually in the 90s, early 90s, anytime you see a green car, there will be rust on it somewhere. And sure enough, he was right back then, at least. So the observation I've made with Beto stickers and where I am, anytime there's a Beto sticker on a car, the car is ragged out. It's completely ragged out. And, the same is not true for Trump stickers, though. If there's Trump stickers on, it's usually trucks, right? About half of them are ragged out, and the other half are just, big, nice trucks, So I think that's pretty funny. But, oh, dude, yeah, Texas, I don't know, man. I hope you're wrong, Josh, about the turning blue. I guess we'll see. I mean, Roger, I think Arizona's very interesting. Did we talk about? Yeah, you talked about the votes that were found in the last episode, but I mean,
Yeah, it's actually funny because
there's
I have something to add to that. It's a pretty good transition because dude, it just gets worse. You heard our spiel last segment about black helicopters and conspiracy theorists. Now, okay, Megan Gilbertson, the communications director for the Maricopa County Elections Department, Department of the Maricopa County Recorder's Office, said that the department processed ballots. Now, when I say processed ballots, they processed 20,000 ballots. The ballots that we talked about last week said that the department processed 20,000 ballots by scanning them into the tabulating machines at MCED before transferring their custody the next day to Runbeck Election Services, which verifies their legitimacy with signature verification. So they just ran through 20,000 ballots unverified. Now the state is actually getting involved in saying, yeah, this is actually criminal activity. So they'll start their investigation or whatever. And I get it, like we said before, everybody just wants to push on to 2020. Man, when you read stuff like that, okay, and this is just from a local paper. This isn't. Go ahead, Josh. What's up?
No, I was just going to ask you one question. How many votes did Biden win Arizona by?
It's like 9,000. Right?
Yeah,
like 9,000 votes.
Yeah, those 20,000 kind of come into play now, don't they?
Dude, it's incredible, and it makes me angry because I want answers. As a voter and as a resident of Maricopa County, I want answers, and I don't think it's acceptable. And I'm actually thinking about when I get back, I want to reach out to the paper there because I hope they continue to press this thing. Like, look, you work for us. It is power to the people. You work for the people. There is no. It's like the Uvalde school. Who's the school official, right? Or that tweeted out the hey, the school's safe and yada yada yada, like 40 minutes into the freaking shooting, and he just sits there and the lady's like microphone. It's like, you work for us. Like, what part of that do you not understand? You don't get a chance to shut your mouth. I want answers, and we want answers, and the fact that you won't provide those answers tells me that you're hiding something, right? Because if they were doing it the right way, they could very easily say, you know what? Because of the amount of early ballots that we received, we went ahead, we ran them through. So they're tabulated. They are set to the side. They get verified. And once they're verified, we go back through and pull out the ones, whatever. I mean, there's a million different excuses that you could have used to attempt to show some transparency. Stuff like this, man. It's like, how do you, and that's just Maricopa County. That's one county. I mean, our biggest county in Arizona, but that's just one. It raises the black helicopters, the conspiracy theories, this and that. It's man, it's just hard not to buy into that stuff. And I would say for those, I'd be curious with our listeners. I can't obviously dig into every state and this and that, but I'd be curious to see what our listeners and viewers are seeing out there. And they're looking. I'm so curious about Pennsylvania, how the Pennsylvania Supreme Court can overturn the legislative laws or regulations for ballot counting. Right? I mean, stuff like that. I don't understand it. To me, it's like, you owe us an answer on that. So good transition here. I do want to go back real quick for my last little piece here. So for those that talk about inflation, because that's the big push right now on the as I read from the one tweet, that is the talking point from the left. Global inflation. That's the or as Joe Biden did on Jimmy Kimmel, the world. fuck, man. Like, what is it with the crisp, the creepy whisper, the world? And I'm gonna say it twice. And he was lost. So anybody who's seen him or who actually watched him on Jimmy Kimmel, uh, they did not do him any favors. And I see why the white, I don't know if you guys heard or not, but KJP and her staff, like I think she just had to announce another resignation. Like it's literally her. She's like the last one left. No, nobody else. But anyway, when you look at global, inflation, and this is kind of shocking to me because with these countries I list here, a lot of them are third world countries and this and that. But I would think that inflation would hit them the hardest and hit them first, right? Because generally speaking, as you have a developed nation, now granted you have more people that are dependent upon the supply chain and supplies, but you tend to be able to absorb those things a little bit better, especially we're 2 years into this thing. So just real quick, and I'll read off the list, and I'll kick it over to Josh for whatever his final thoughts are. But Sudan, they actually went the other way, negative 0.429%. Vanuatu, 0.7. Macau, 1.06. Gabon 1.2, Maldives 1.2, Hong Kong 1.3, Bolivia 1.41. Now, mind you, anything generally 2.5 and below is considered good, right? You kind of even push that 2.75 or whatever. Bolivia 1.4, Afghanistan 1.56, Benin 2, China 2.1, Seychelles 2.1, New Caledonia 2.2, Malaysia 2.3, Saudi Arabia 2.3, Bermuda 2.5, Japan 2.5. Liechtenstein 2.5, UAE, Oman, Central African Republic, Vietnam, Equatorial Guinea, Switzerland. Those are all the countries that are under 3 right now. And then when you get to the threes, you've got Brunei, Ecuador, Taiwan, Swaziland, Bahrain, Chad, Indonesia, Jordan, Djibouti, Panama, Palestine, Congo. You get up into Israel at 4, Ivory Coast. There are a shit ton of countries that are below where we're at. So when they talk about this global inflation, I mean, you could probably argue that when you get to 5%, you have a problem. Okay. Obviously, 2.5, 2.75 is kind of where you want to sit at. You're going to see some spikes, right? I mean, you're going to see that 3%, 3.5. I would say that when you get above your 4.99, like you have some serious economic issues. And I mean, there are a ton of countries here that are well below 5%. I mean, when you get to, we're at the bottom of the chart here worldwide when it comes down to what our inflation rate is now. And I'm not even sure with the others what they count as far as inflation, whether it's just goods and services or if it's also, food or some energy or whatever. But it's, for those listeners out there, it's you can't buy into the talking points. Get into the data. That's the frustrating part that I have with Twitter because you only have 140 characters and a bunch of people. There are a bunch of morons on Twitter, and maybe I'm one of them. I get it, but at least I try to look into the numbers a little bit, and it's clear as day. And as we have said for weeks, the left, it's clearly just gaslighting. Don't believe what you see. Don't believe what you're paying at the pump. Don't believe what you're spending in the grocery store. I had a guy the other day talk about, we've had historical job growth. You know what? So Biden is claiming 8.3 million jobs that he's created in his presidency, which presidents don't create jobs, but whatever. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt for the argument's sake, right? That he created 8.3 million jobs. We lost 9.8 million during COVID. So by my count, and I'm no mathematician, I know I'm Asian, but I think we're down about 1.6 million. And that's with zero job growth, right? That's with zero job growth. You were down 1.6 million just to break even from 2 years ago. Okay. So then when you add on the 455,000 jobs or, 600,000 jobs that you should be adding annually anyway, you're down more than 2 million jobs. So anyway, enough of my ranting. I'll throw it over to Josh and give his final thoughts.
Yeah, I got a few final thoughts, and we'll throw it over to Luke, and Luke can close us out. So, you talk about, the administration, talking about, best economic recovery in history, Jack, Biden said, and like that. Surely they don't want you to believe what you see. They want you to believe what you tell them, what they tell you. And, it's just, it's the sky is green, it's just, I'm going to keep telling you that.
And we shrunk last quarter.
Yeah. The economy shrunk.
We went the other way, dude.
Yeah, the economy didn't grow, and then when he was down, he was out at the port of LA or the port of New Orleans, one of the two. I forget which one he was at. And, he's talking about how, the economy was growing. It was like, it literally shrunk. Your own administration came out and was like, no, it shrunk last quarter. Like, it's just, it's a complete disaster. And the media is, the media is enabling this as they always do. So I pulled up a tweet from CNN on December the 8th. CNN tweeted, quote, gas prices will tumble below $3 a gallon soon, government forecast. And it was like, man, that didn't age well.
Well, you don't know that. You don't know what the definition of soon is. Because
Well, that's true.
transitory now means obviously 18 months and greater. So maybe soon is
Yeah.
like 3 years.
It's crazy. I mean, who knew you couldn't shut an entire country's economy down and then, print trillions of dollars and, and then just restart it back up whenever you wanted to. Like, who knew you couldn't do that? It's crazy. I mean, apparently, the people who still have jobs couldn't, they didn't see it coming. If we were as bad at our jobs as they are at their jobs, like we would have been fired a long time ago. So last thought, kind of on the whole January 6th thing. I'll say this about the whole, the clowns who went in the Capitol. The people that were inside the Capitol were scared. They were legitimately scared. And however you feel about it, I'm here to tell you, it's not necessarily a bad thing. So that's it for me. Let's see what Luke's got.
100%, man. After January 6th happened, if you guys remember, been listening to us for a while, we recorded a humdinger where we said a lot of stuff, and we decided not to let that out because the emotions were a little raw and things like that. But Josh hit it on the head, and I think we've said it in the past. Government needs to be afraid of the people, not the other way around. And I remember distinctly saying, not a single one of those representatives were afraid during the Black Lives Matter riots when they were burning down Portland, when they were burning down Seattle, Missouri, all over the United States. Not a single one of them were worried, didn't lose a second sleep over it, but they were scared that day because they came to their house, and now something's got to be done about it. Doesn't justify going into the Capitol and breaking things. There's a right and a wrong way to do things, and I think the execution on that was absolutely wrong. But at the same time, it's not a bad thing for the government representatives to be afraid of their people and the consequences when they don't do their jobs. So, just as a reminder, we all called out Anthony Blinken, and who was the architect of the Arab Spring, thought it was such a great idea. Headline today, fresh clashes rock Libyan capital after another failed coup. That was 2012. And so that's the kind of people that our president, Joe Biden, selected to be in his cabinet. So good episode. I don't know if Roger has anything else to say. Do you, Roger? Yes or no? Nope. Okay. Roger told me to shout out Carlton Zeus. I was thinking maybe for our 100th episode, which will be, maybe we could get old Carlton Zeus on here and pick his brain on how he became the man he is today. So check him out on iTunes. Like Josh said at the beginning of the podcast, check us out at culperscanteencup.com. And man, I'll tell you what, it's a good episode. Hope to be out on Tuesday, and we're going to see if Roger's facts and figures are good, whether we're going to get more listens on this one than ever before because when we release it. So one last thing, happy birthday to Russell, loyal listener. His birthday's today. So belated birthday, Russell, when you hear this, happy birthday, brother. Only half a century old. Half a century young. So with that, we'll leave it, and I appreciate y'all listening. Till then, keep your canteen cups full and tightly secured.